When they say we are all in this together, actually they are right.
Yeah, that's true. We are all in this karmic shit together.
This is the start of something new. This is the start of something magical. This is the start of something new. This is the start of something true.
This is gonna be a tough one, Earthlings.
We're gonna be talking about what is happening in the world right now in 2021.
And the imbalance in power and all this infringement on human rights that's happening from organization, governments and so on.
And we're gonna be taking a spiritual perspective on this, looking at on a, humanity's soul level, at a karmic level, what is happening, why it's happening, and how we can get out of this mess.
Yeah. And that can go against a lot of conspiracy theorist ideologies out there, because it put back the responsibility on us as individuals to make a difference in this world.
Yes, absolutely. So basically what we are observing at this time on planet Earth is an imbalance of power. The great majority of people don't have a lot of power to influence, politics or what happens in the world, whereas very few people hold a lot of power. And this imbalance of power is a result of not them stealing the power, but rather us disowning our power.
And allowing it to be taken from us.
Exactly.
And that's a result of a lot of trauma, pattern, and not owning parts of us who contain and hold important truth for us and for the universe at large.
Absolutely. So basically, we have fallen into patterns of determinism and victimhood at large. And you can see this in the great majority of people in the way that we outsource the responsibility of our health, for example,
Exactly.
to doctors and pharmaceutical companies. This is a victimhood mentality, actually.
Yeah, like waiting until we get sick and then we seek out like, oh, please give me the pill so I can be healed. Instead of really looking what's healthy for us when we are healthy, before we getting sick, doing the exercises, doing the sports, doing the healthy diet, doing the emotional healing that allow us to be in touch with life force energy.
Right.
Yeah.
So, first of all, what is power? Power, as I see it, I feel it very much as a masculine force. It is this fire element that comes through. With power, I can assert myself and go for what I want. I can say what I don't want, and I can stand in my truth without wavering, without giving up on myself. For me, that is power, the ability to, first of all, know what my truth is and to not compromise on it, to stand in it, to express it, to assert myself.
And face the circumstances when you express that power and exercise it. Yeah. And that's the juicy of life, actually. That's where we can create more balance in this reality, where we can say our no, even in small things. And this is going to be the next point.
Yes, but why did we disown our power to begin with? This starts, of course, surprise, surprise, in our early childhood.
Drama.
Exactly. So mostly this begins to happen in our families from very early on, when the child says, I want this, and the parent says, no, you can't have it. And the child feels eventually powerless to get what they want. Or the child says, no, I don't want that. I don't want to finish my play. And they are forced to do so.
Yeah.
So over and over and over again, we are forced by coercion, by threat of abandonment or punishment.
Or violence.
To give up on our truth. So we sink into powerlessness to have it our way.
Yeah, we prioritize connection over our truth, and that's the recipe for codependence relationship and the recipe for unhealthy dynamic, which we see right now between us and the government, and us, rich versus poor, and so on.
Yeah, and at the same time, it's so understandable that any child would choose connection. And that is totally okay, because we have to survive. We want to, it is so intense to feel the loneliness and abandonment as a little child, that of course we will choose connection, even if that comes with a consequence like that.
Yeah.
And you know what? I actually want to mention that school, where most of us go to as children, is the training ground to giving up our own personal power.
Yeah.
You know why? Because maybe you don't even want to go to school.
Yeah, and you have to go to.
It might be a huge boundary for you. I don't want to go there. It feels abusive. Yet you have to go.
This is a huge collective trauma. And then it comes up, when you go to the school, then that's another level of powerlessness, with homework, with classes that you don't like, with teacher that you don't like, with classmate that you have to stick with them for years.
Exactly. And this is something that happens at school on a daily basis, where we are trained to not listen to our personal impulses. Because maybe my truth is, I want to move my body. Like my body literally wants to move. And you are forced to sit down with the threat of punishment.
Yeah.
With that, you begin, and I begin, we all begin to just not listen to our personal truths. We give up our power, and we begin to believe in the power of authority, who is the teacher or the principal.
And later the government.
Exactly. So it's just a training ground for us to give power away to an authority. So later on in life, we just naturally transition that authority from teacher to the government and the police officer or whoever it is, or the employer. Okay, how do we get out of this mess though? This has very little to do with fighting the authority itself.
Yeah.
Because actually it's an internal spiritual journey. It's like an initiation into creatorhood, into owning our personal power and personal internal authority once again.
I'm getting goosebumps.
So how do we do that? How do we own our power? This is as I said, this is very little about fighting anything external. It starts in very simple things in your personal life, where we have to begin to notice when something is out of alignment with our truth. This could be as simple as, I'm at a dinner party and I don't want to eat something. I feel social pressure, but I don't want to eat it. It's not healthy. So me owning my power would be me standing in my truth in that moment and choosing not to eat it, even if there is a social consequence. That's me owning my power in that moment.
Other example could be disagreeing on a conversation. We might find ourselves in a social environment where everybody agreeing on an idea or ideology or value that is not in alignment for us, and many of us would give up or not saying their opinion or avoid discussing or maybe leaving, and our personal truth could be to say, no, I don't disagree for this and this and this reason.
Right. So it's no longer compromising, even on the smallest things. And it really starts with the smallest things, you know?
Here where you have power actually on the smallest things, because you have the ability to say no to those small things. And here where you can exercise your power, when you learn to say no to those small details, you can say to bigger things, like the restriction happening in human rights in humanity at this moment.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and I want to give you more examples of what this could look like. This could be something like someone comes towards you like this, hey, give me a hug, and you personally don't want to hug that person. So asserting your personal power would be, perhaps you just need to tell that person, you know, like this, thank you, I don't want to be hugged right now.
This is really important, you know? In spiritual community too.
And you know what? In order for you to own your power, you're going to face some fear.
A lot of fear sometimes.
A lot of fear. You know, like sometimes when we have conflicts in our community, it's all about each person bringing their truth to the table. Yeah. Sometimes I'm trembling because I'm so scared.
It feels like life-threatening, because this is how we learn to disown our truth, because it was threatening our connection with our parents. So every time you want to bring uncomfortable truth that contradict the other person in connection, that you're in connection with, this fear might be triggered, the fear of death even. Yeah.
So power is not convincing others, it is not power over others, it is power within. Yeah. Power to stand centered and in our truth and take action or not take action that is in alignment with our truth. That's it.
Well said.
And when we begin to own our truth in that way, we'll begin to make choices that simply take energy away from anything that harms us or tries to have control over us. It's simply us completely putting our energy elsewhere and creating something completely different. There is really no need to fight anything. Of course, at some point, we will have to most likely assert a boundary with the authorities. For example, if you don't want to take the jab, you might need to, resist and say, assert your sacred no with the authorities, but this has nothing to do with fighting.
Exactly.
It's simply you standing in your truth once again.
And knowing, like studying the principle of human rights, studying the principle of freedom, and saying no from that hierarchical way where you understand what's your right and what you can do about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Ram always brings the more practical perspective, and I'm the one who is like channeling the like the spiritual perspective. And the way I see this, the reason why we can't blame anyone here is because that's once again us giving away our power, that someone else did it. I'm a victim. Whenever we disown something, we magnetize it in the external. The universe brings it back in a different form to us. So if I disown my power, I'm gonna manifest something in the external that says, okay, I'll take all the power if you don't want to have your power. And it's gonna push you until the moment you say, I'm gonna own my power again, get away from me, you know? So that's what has happened on planet Earth. It is us, majority of the people, disowning our power that manifested that, external force that says, okay, I'll take all of it. It's just an imbalance. And of course, those people who are currently misusing power, they are also responsible in their own way,
And they have their own karma. It's not that they are free or they are in a better position. They are in the same shit as us not owning our power. It's just like being on a different spectrum of the imbalance and being with our truth. Exactly.
We are in the same shit together. So it's not going to help us karmically to blame them, because that just keeps the same loop going. Because if we blame them, we will find ourselves in their position in another situation or in another life. There are beings in the spiritual community at the moment. There is a lot of ideas about we shouldn't be angry, or
we should surrender and take the moment as it comes.
Yes, which is true in a way.
Yeah.
But the other half of the picture is that we do have childhood trauma, and anger is the carrier of our power.
Yeah.
If you suppress anger, you will suppress your personal power. Inevitably, it's not possible for you to own your power if you disown your anger.
And for that, we have a specific video about owning your anger. You can click here and see it. Next.
Yes, and this is not about projecting your anger onto someone. This is a different thing.
Yeah.
So this is where I would also say that it's not healthy to, if I get angry, that I put it on someone else. But that I allow the power back into my body. And I might want to do, which I really recommend actually, if you feel angry, that you find a release for it. Because once you allow yourself to scream and to move your body in a way that it wants to move, all that energy is gonna return into your entire body, and you will feel so much life force energy. With your anger, you will find the courage to stand in your truth. This is essential. Another spiritual truth that is being used as a false light, misleading, twisted thing, is that we have entered into the era of Aquarius, which is the era of the divine feminine. And while it is true that the divine feminine is rising, and it's, there is going to be more balance, the way that this can mislead us is to think that, now it's all about being soft and flowy and surrendering, when actually what we really, really, really need to own is our divine masculine in this moment.
And this is actually what's missing, because if we disown the divine masculine, we are completely unable to hold space for the feminine, because it needs this container, it needs an environment to flourish. Without having healthy masculinity out there, it can't flourish.
Divine feminine is sensitive, it is flowing, it is surrendering. So if you have an abuser and faced with divine feminine, she's completely powerless and at the mercy of that energy. That's why it's so important. We have to first rise the divine masculine, which is that ability to set boundaries, to discern, to take action in the right direction.
Action in the right direction, I like that.
And for me, the way I understand the new age, it's not that it's going to be the era of the divine feminine. It's going to be the era of balance between divine feminine and divine masculine.
Integrated.
It is going to be an era of integration where both have their place. All right, so this was quite an information bomb for you right now. Let us know if this resonates and where you're at with owning your personal power. Are you comfortable with your anger? You know, we would love to hear where
your
you're at with
personal
this.
experience. If you are able to say no in your life, where is your boundary? If this resonates with you, what you gonna do next? If you learned something from this video, I hope that you learn to own this discernment, desire, and saying no.
And to say what you want, your truth. Just speak your truth.
Yeah. And we have another video about owning your power. You can watch it next. And another video here that YouTube recommend to you from our channel. And subscribe and see you next time.
Yes.
Love you guys.
Thank you so much for being here. Mwah.
Oh, you're so beautiful.